April 14th in history. In 1205, the Latin Empire, born from the Fourth Crusade's conquest of Constantinople, controlled vast Balkan territories, but faced fierce resistance from Bulgarian Tsar Kaloyan. On April 14th, Kaloyan's Cuman cavalry lured the Crusaders into an ambush. The Latin army was encircled and annihilated. Emperor Baldwin I was captured alive. Baldwin died in captivity. The defeat permanently shattered Latin dominance in the Balkans, accelerating the Latin Empire's decline and empowering Bulgarian sovereignty for generations. In 1471, England was torn apart by the Wars of the Roses. Yorkist King Edward IV marched north to face the most powerful noblemen in the land. At dawn, fog caused Lancastrian troops to fire on their own allies. Edward's forces broke through. Richard Neville, Earl of Warwick, was cut down fleeing the field. Warwick's death shattered Lancastrian hopes. Edward IV secured the Yorkist throne, reshaping England's future and ending an era of noble dominance over the crown. In 1561, Nuremberg was a thriving Renaissance city, a hub of trade, art, and learning. As dawn broke on April 14th, its citizens stepped outside to witness something no one could explain. Dozens witnessed spheres, cylinders, and crosses, red, blue, and black, filling the sky above the city, seeming to clash and maneuver before many fell to earth and vanished in smoke. Hans Glaser captured the event in a detailed broadsheet illustration that survives to this day, making Nuremberg's celestial spectacle one of history's most documented, unexplained phenomena. In 1861, tensions between North and South had reached a breaking point. Fort Sumter stood in Charleston Harbor, a federal outpost surrounded by Confederate guns. On April 12th, Confederate batteries opened fire. After 34 hours of relentless bombardment, Union Major Robert Anderson surrendered and lowered the American flag. The fall of Sumter ignited the Civil War. Lincoln called for 75,000 volunteers the next day, launching 4 years of devastating conflict that would reshape the nation. In 1865, the Civil War was ending. President Abraham Lincoln arrived at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., expecting a night of celebration. A lone figure slipped into the presidential box. John Wilkes Booth fired a single shot, and Lincoln collapsed. Chaos erupted through the theater. Lincoln died the next morning, the first assassinated U.S. president. His death cast a long shadow over Reconstruction and the nation's healing. In 1912, the RMS Titanic departed Southampton on her maiden voyage, the largest, most luxurious ship ever built, deemed unsinkable by the world. At 11:40 p.m. on April 14th, Titanic struck an iceberg below the waterline. The ship sank within hours, killing over 1,500 souls. The Titanic disaster reshaped maritime law worldwide, mandating enough lifeboats for all passengers and establishing the International Ice Patrol. In 1935, the American Great Plains were already deep in drought. Years of overfarming had stripped the land bare, leaving millions of acres of loose, exposed topsoil. On April 14th, a towering wall of black dust, 8,000 feet high, roared across Texas and Oklahoma, burying farms and suffocating all in its path within minutes. Black Sunday forced hundreds of thousands to flee west forever. It shocked the nation into landmark soil conservation reforms that reshaped American land policy for generations. In 1939, the American heartland was devastated. Dust storms had swallowed the Great Plains, driving hundreds of thousands of desperate families westward toward California. On April 14th, Viking Press published John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. The first printing sold out immediately, shocking readers with its raw portrait of the Joad family's harrowing migration. The novel won the 1940 Pulitzer Prize and anchored Steinbeck's 1962 Nobel Prize. Its indictment of inequality still resonates, cementing it as one of America's most powerful and enduring literary works. In 1944, Bombay's Victoria Dock bustled with wartime cargo. The British freighter SS Fort Stikine carried a deadly mix: cotton, gold bullion, and tons of explosives. Fire broke out in the hold. Firefighters couldn't stop it. 2 massive blasts tore the ship apart, hurling debris miles away and killing over 800 people instantly. The blasts destroyed a dozen ships and leveled the docks. It remains one of India's deadliest maritime disasters, reshaping how ports handle hazardous wartime cargo. In 1956, television was live, no recordings, no replays. Broadcasters in Chicago gathered to witness a demonstration that would change everything. Ampex engineers rolled tape on a massive reel-to-reel machine. It recorded live TV, then played it back in perfect broadcast quality. The crowd erupted. That machine sparked home video, streaming, and modern media. Every recorded show, every replay, every binge watch traces back to that Chicago room. In 1981, NASA prepared to launch the Space Shuttle Columbia, the first reusable orbital spacecraft ever built. Astronauts John Young and Robert Crippen stood ready for history. On April 14th, Columbia glided down from orbit and landed on the dry lakebed at Edwards Air Force Base, touching down on a runway like an airplane, the first orbital craft ever to do so. Columbia's successful STS-1 mission opened a new era of reusable spaceflight, paving the way for 135 shuttle missions over 30 years of human exploration. In 1988, Afghanistan had endured 9 years of brutal Soviet occupation. Over 1 million Afghans had died as Cold War powers fought for influence across the rugged, war-torn landscape. On April 14th, diplomats from the US, USSR, Pakistan, and Afghanistan signed the Geneva Accords, binding the Soviets to a full troop withdrawal by February 1989. The Soviet withdrawal signaled a historic defeat, accelerating the USSR's collapse. Afghanistan, left fragmented, descended into civil war, seeds of the Taliban's eventual rise. In 2003, scientists worldwide united for a 13-year mission to decode the complete blueprint of human life, mapping every gene in our DNA. On April 14th, the Human Genome Project declared victory, 3.2 billion base pairs sequenced, 2 years ahead of schedule, unlocking humanity's genetic code. The decoded genome transformed medicine forever, enabling personalized treatments, disease prediction, and therapies once thought impossible for generations to come. In 2010, Iceland's Eyjafjallajökull volcano awakened. Beneath a glacier, immense pressure had been building for months, threatening to unleash a catastrophic eruption. On April 14th, the volcano exploded violently, blasting a massive ash plume miles into the sky. Over 100,000 flights were cancelled, stranding millions across the globe. The crisis revealed how fragile modern aviation is against nature's power. New ash monitoring protocols and emergency frameworks were adopted across Europe permanently. In 2019, Augusta National buzzed with tension. Tiger Woods, once golf's unstoppable force, had spent years battling surgeries and doubt. Could he still compete? On Sunday, Woods surged through the final round. He sank crucial putts, wore his iconic red shirt, and claimed his 15th major, his first in 11 long years. The victory stunned the world. After surgeries, scandals, and years of doubt, Woods proved comebacks are possible. Golf and sports would never forget April 14, 2019.